Hello, how are you? I'm going to awkwardly hold this microphone here the entire video. So, the State of the Union happened last night, which wasn't uncomfortable at all. Mind you, both of those people sitting behind Biden are fully vaccinated and they're wearing a mask. But my personal favorite part, we're going to get into a little bit of the State of Union, but what happened afterward is what really drove me crazy and what I want to talk about today. This has been kind of building all week, and I'll explain that to you moving forward. I will say I did find the most inspiring part of the whole speech was this moment right here.
We have to do more than just build back better. We have to build back better.
If you want to build back better, we're gonna build back better. So I don't know about you, but I felt really inspired. I felt unified. I had a lot of hope for this country. He then went on to talk about lowering drug prices, even though he just raised the price of insulin. He then went on to say, they want, the whole thing was they want free preschool, I believe, like free college, all of these things. The whole message was basically, we want a bigger government. And that's really what I want to talk about, because they are using certain things like our racial divide, and what they're doing, and this is sort of what I saw in the entire State of the Union speech, is it's this message of racism is here. This is a terrible racist country. The supremacy of the white people is the biggest terrorist threat in this country right now. So that was kind of another messaging, while simultaneously saying you need the government, you need bigger government, and that really is exactly what they're doing and why they are dividing us. And they're using race because they know that it's a sensitive topic. They know they can manipulate the public with it, and it's working. They want to get you to hate your neighbor and fight with your neighbor and fight amongst yourselves so that they can say, oh, we're the government, we're going to fix everything, we're going to help you, you need us. You need us. Because what happens when you have people that are independent and people that are self-starters and, the small business owners, all of that, when you have people that are unified and self-sufficient, they're not looking to you for everything. All of a sudden, you're not as powerful. But isn't that the entire reason, the entire American experiment was to have a small government and we the people? And that is the exact opposite of the messaging that I heard last night. But not everyone will see that because they're so stuck on these false problems that they're telling us that exist. I'm not saying that there aren't white people that are supremacist, or there are not people that are racist, but they are taking a problem that is like this and they are making it a monument, and that's just simply not the case. But that being said, the part that really was eye-opening was after the State of the Union, Tim Scott made an address, and he addressed some of the things that Biden said and sort of gave the Republican argument. And in my eyes, it was kind of a milquetoast speech. I'll link to the full thing below if you want to see it. It wasn't anything crazy. He talked about his experience growing up being a black man in America and things of that. But then he also talked about being a self-starter and that he did it and other people can. It was a nice speech. I actually wanted him to go a little bit harder. But all in all, I liked Tim Scott. I thought it was a lovely speech, and gave a lot of Republican talking points. Nothing really controversial. And what was trending on Twitter basically for hours last night, this was trending, was this racial slur. It is sort of this trend and this normalization of saying things that are blatantly, outright racist. Yet, if you are a Democrat, whether you're white, black, Asian, no matter the color, you get away with it, and it is being normalized within the Democratic Party. I think this was my tweet earlier today. What did I say? Reason number 1,367 why I left the Democratic Party. A racial slur was trending for quite some time last night, directed at Tim Scott, and somehow that's okay. I will give Twitter credit. They finally took it off the trending. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, you want to see real, live, blatant racism? Ask a black conservative what they get called on a daily basis, and it's all coming from this one party who claims to be the tolerant left. Yet they are so tolerant that if a woman, if somebody that is gay, if somebody that is black or a minority disagrees with them on basic beliefs, all of a sudden you don't matter. Your voice doesn't matter. Nothing you say matters, and it is completely okay to say things that are overtly sexist or racist or anti-LGBTQ or whatever you want to call it. It's completely acceptable to do that. It happens all the time, and it's weird. It's bizarre. It is backwards. What's even crazier with this particular situation, and I'm going to show you a few other examples of things that I've noticed, something I noticed this past week, something that I personally witnessed and had happen myself, and an interview from a police officer out of Portland that I actually saw almost a year ago that just really struck me. So we're going to go over all that. I'm going to give you examples, but it is just what blows my mind is I look online, I look through Twitter, and Twitter is not real life, by the way, but sometimes you can get a gauge of where the radicals are thinking, where they're at in life, and usually it's not a good place. But I go on Twitter, or I see some of the articles that are being written. How many white people feel justified in using that same term and feel justified in saying that to, and it happens all the time, whether it's Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum, Ben Carson, Larry Elder, Thomas Sowell, the list goes on. You don't have to agree with everything they say. You don't have to like everything they say, but to automatically shut down their arguments, or to try to, by simply saying a slur like that, and you feel justified in doing that, and you don't think there's anything wrong, you think you have the moral high ground. Not only do you think you have the moral high ground, you will go and lecture everyone else if they don't agree with you. They were mad because he spoke out against critical race theory. They were mad that he said you can't fight discrimination with discrimination. So what did they do? They said a discriminating term, and it trended on Twitter, and they have the moral high ground. You think that is okay? If you think that is justified, you're just gone. All your morality is gone. So what I just can't get over, I still can't get over, these are the same dum-dums who they go around talking about all these systemic problems. America is inherently this and inherently that, and systemic problems, and we're bad and evil. Who did they happily go and vote for? Joe Biden, the old white man who's been the system for 50 years and hasn't done anything to change it. What was the 94 crime bill? Wasn't he a part of that? Fact check me. They go and vote for him. The embodiment. You had someone that wasn't the system, and the system brainwashed you, and the system won. And now you are an activist, a brainwash activist for the system. And let's talk about Kamala Harris for a second. The people that voted for Kamala Harris. Because I get this as a woman all the time. People used to tell me, how could you vote for Donald Trump being a woman? I'm like, how could you vote for Joe Biden being a woman? Haven't you heard about the very serious sexual assault allegations? Oh, because the system hid that from you. They didn't want you to know that because they wanted you to vote for him. The system lied to you. They also lied to you about Kamala Harris. They handpicked you, or they handpicked Kamala Harris, and then made her out to be something that she's not. I can't tell you how many girls wear her proudly on their t-shirts or put her photo on their Instagram, thinking that the fact that she became the vice president is this embodiment of women's empowerment and feminist and like hear me, whatever. It is such BS. Kamala Harris was one of the worst candidates. I don't know if you remember the Democratic primary debate, and where Kamala Harris was still considering running for president, which she insinuated in that debate that Joe Biden was the big ol' R word, which I guess she doesn't think that anymore. It was Tulsi Gabbard who, in a world where things are just and fair, in a world where up is up and down is down and right is right and wrong is wrong, Tulsi Gabbard should have ended any shot that Kamala Harris had with for getting anywhere near the White House in her political career. And I'm going to show you that clip right now.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place. As Senator Harris, when you were in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that.
That was probably one of the biggest owns I've ever seen in a political debate. It should have been over for Kamala Harris right there. And many people thought it was. After that debate, I think her approval rating was at 6%. She was a completely unpopular pick. Tulsi Gabbard would have been incredible on that ticket. But again, Tulsi Gabbard isn't the system, and they need the system. They need the system to keep people oppressed, to keep them fighting amongst each other so that system can grow and their power can grow and you can be dependent on them like a good little... It's like Joe Biden getting up there talking about these issues, these systemic issues. He is the system. So why doesn't he put his money where his mouth is and step down and give someone else the role of the president? He's not going to do that. These people are hypocrites. They're lying to you. If there are problems within certain systems, if Hollywood has a diversity problem, who are these people that aren't hiring people based on their race? Find those people and fire them. There are people that are literally getting rich off of this oppression, that are getting rich off of the oppression of others. Look at Robin DiAngelo, self-proclaimed racist, who wrote a book called White Fragility, and people hire her, a self-proclaimed racist, to go and teach people about racism. What? Therese Cullors, co-founder of Black Lives Matter, bought a $1.4 million house in Topanga. Topanga is too yuppie for me even. By the way, $1.4 million in California is like a tent under an overpass. But still, it's a significant purchase. And that was one of 3 or 4 homes that she bought. She's getting rich off BLM. None of that money has gone into any community she says to want to help. These people are frauds, and they are causing you and I to fight with each other and call each other names and be against each other. Now, the rest of this video, I'm going to give you a few more examples of this freaking bizarre and disgusting and unacceptable behavior that comes a lot of times, sorry to say it, from white liberals. One of these things I witnessed myself, and 2 of these things are things that I saw. One was a year ago, one was just recent. I'm going to pull up the recent one first. I'm not going to show you any clips of the videos, but I will link to everything down below. I encourage you to watch it and come up with your own opinion about it. It's fascinating in a very disturbing way. So this is a screenshot from, I don't know if any of you guys like Elijah. He has a show called Slightly Offensive. I love that show. He's very funny. It is a little bit of toilet humor, but I like that sometimes. I'm not about being politically correct. And anyway, it's refreshing, but he's been doing these debates recently. So he had a debate on sort of this police brutality and systemic problems within the police force with these individuals that you see right here. 2 of them right-leaning, 2 of them very left-leaning. Obviously, you see Brandon Tatum right there. I've talked about him a lot on this channel. A lot of you, I think, follow his channel. And again, you don't have to agree with everything he says. That's not the point I'm making in this video. The point I'm making is this. You have a panel of all like young white kids, which is fine. Everyone is allowed to have an opinion. If you know the difference between right and wrong, you are allowed to have an opinion. Where it gets a little weird is when you try to speak for other people in their community, especially when they're sitting there right with you. That's where it gets a little weird. But you have every right. I talk about controversial things on this channel all the time. Anywho, so I'm watching this debate. And what happens in this debate is something I've seen a few times, and it's disturbing. So Brandon Tatum is older than all of these. I mean, they're young. They look like they're all in their early 20s, I think. I don't know, but they're clearly younger than Brandon Tatum. He clearly has more life experience. He is black. He grew up in a poor community, and he was a police officer. So this is probably someone, when you're talking about systemic problems in the police force and brutality and growing up in a black neighborhood, this is probably someone you want to listen to. You want to hear his experience. And what do we hear all the time? We need to listen. We need to do the work, and we need to listen. And what did they say to him during this interview? He kept talking about his personal experience, and they said, your personal experience doesn't matter. We don't care about that. I read this statistic. Therefore, I know what I'm talking about. You don't. They said that several times. Well, particularly the one in the lower corner said it several times. First of all, I think back to when I left the Democratic Party. First of all, respect your elders. Respect someone that's had real life experience. They could probably add something to the conversation. I don't think these kids have ever stepped foot in a low income area. And look, I grew up in a lower income area. I had a single mom who worked 7 days a week. I lived in a small apartment with my mom and my sister. So I understand what it's like to grow up without a father in the home and to grow up with the odds against you in many different ways. And I would think if we're talking about a community that is poor, people would want to hear my own personal experience and what I went through. But they just kept shut. They were like, we don't want to hear your experience because it goes completely against the statistic I read on Vox. And they feel totally justified in doing this. They feel like they have the moral high ground. They feel that they are right. And this is everything that is wrong with right now. Our universities are producing these little buttholes who don't know anything, that think they know everything, and they're incredibly offensive. And what they were doing right there, I look, for the most part, people's hearts are in a good place, okay? I'm not saying they're smart. What they did, to me, was racist. What they were doing was racist. I'm not saying they were intending to do it that way. I'm not saying that's what they meant. I don't know what else to call it. Another screenshot from a video that I'm going to show you. Again, it's linked below if you want to watch it. So this was an interview by a Portland police officer, and this interview was conducted last summer in the height of all the riots. Remember, we had like over 100, they're still going on in Portland, but we had over 100 days of rioting in Portland, and these poor police officers. So what was going on in Portland? Night after night after night, they were having riots. Simultaneously, you have the local city council and the local government, the local mayor, that's basically praising all these people going out and rioting, demonizing their own police officers. And not only that, the police officers are going and they're arresting these people. They're being attacked by these people every single night. They're trashing buildings, setting buildings on fire, throwing projectiles at police officers. Some of these police officers were permanently injured from some of these things. I know a few of them were blinded. They were shining these really powerful green lasers in their eyes. Some of them had serious head injuries, all kinds of stuff. And when they were arresting these individuals for crimes, they were being demonized, and the DA was letting these people out the same night. So the same people would come out and riot again. They had no support. And this guy is a police officer, and he was basically talking about his experience in the riots. And you can clearly tell just the look on his face that he has been through it. He clearly looks a little traumatized, if you ask me, and that's the feeling that I got listening to him talk. And they brought up, of course they have to, because they're there in the name of Black Lives Matter, all these rioters. And so he was asked during this interview, so what is it like being a Black police officer and being attacked in these riots that are there for Black Lives Matter? And he was just like, it's bizarre. He goes, it's totally bizarre. And he goes, I even had a family member that is Black and decided to go to a Black Lives Matter protest, not the ones I'm involved in, but a different one, and said the same thing. It's just bizarre. you have all of these white kids, and they're not all white, but you have all these white kids basically yelling racial slurs at police officers, and they feel justified. And he told one story, and I witnessed something just like this with my own eyes. I'll get to that next. He told one story of this young black girl that, she looked like him, and she came up to him and she said, "Why aren't you talking to us? Why aren't you engaging with us? You're just standing there." And he looked at her and he goes, "You want to know what? The reason I don't is because every time someone that looks like me comes up to me and starts talking to me, some white person will start yelling and telling that person to get away from me, that I'm evil, that I'm bad." They're not even allowing people to have a chance to connect, to heal. And while he was telling that girl that, guess what happened? A white person came up and told the girl to get away from him. And the girl goes, "Oh my gosh, you just said that happened every single time." And he goes, "I told you." Something very similar happened in front of my own eyes. And this is a picture from that day. I didn't want to call out the police officers. So I went out a few times and set up a table in West Hollywood, and a few friends of mine and I were gathering signatures to recall Gavin Newsom. Well, we had some of our city council was not happy that we were out there collecting signatures, so they had the police come over and talk to us and to try to give us the mask mandate tickets because we were in an open park, not around anyone without our masks on. That's just silly. Just all kinds of stuff. So the police officers were actually very nice, and they were embarrassed for even being there and having to talk to us. But anyway, we ended up talking to these officers for about 45 minutes. They were really nice. It was a lovely interaction. We talked about all kinds of stuff. And at one point, I walk away from the conversation. One of my friends, who happens to be black, was still talking to the officers, and I was with another friend of mine. We're sitting at the table, so I'm probably about 10 feet away. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, again, it's a lovely day, we're having this lovely interaction, and out of nowhere, this white guy comes up with his camera phone on, puts it in the police officers' faces, and starts berating the officers, and then starts telling my friend, who's having a lovely interaction with the police officers. By the way, I believe 2 of those officers were Hispanic, who's having this lovely interaction. He starts yelling at the police officers, saying that they're oppressing him. And then he started yelling at my friend, saying that he's oppressed. And my friend's like, "No, I'm not." The guy even looked at him and said, "Well, you don't understand what's going on with your people." He said, "Your people." I just don't understand how people think this is okay, where you can just go and speak for someone and tell them they're oppressed, and they're sitting there like, "I can speak for myself, and no, I'm not. Shut up. Yes, you are." If that were me, if somebody came up to me and said, "You're a woman, if a man came up to me and said, "You're a woman and you're oppressed," and I said, "No, I'm not," and they said, "Yes, you are, woman." Okay, maybe they just say, "Yes, you are." That would be pretty sexist, wouldn't it? But this happens all the time, and I couldn't believe I saw this in front of me with my own eyes. I've seen it on TV. I've covered a lot of the riots and the protests, but I've never seen it in real life. And I started yelling. I was like, "Get the F out of here. Go away. Like, goodbye. What is the matter with you? What is the matter with you?" But these people feel justified. And it's getting to the point where a lot of people throw around the term cult, and that's almost what it's starting to seem like. It's like, if you don't see how that behavior is weird and completely wrong and offensive, you are lost. You are a lost individual. But anyway, that's all I have to say for you on that. This is just something I've noticed a lot, and I'm appalled by it. Again, you have the right to speak on any issue, but I just keep seeing this behavior of shutting down anyone that disagrees with you and telling these people that their opinion doesn't matter. And it's just not okay. And I get it as being a woman and being a Republican. I see it with, gay men that are Republican. It's like, oh, we care about feminism. We care about race issues. We care about LGBTQ issues. But if you have that R in front of your name, if you believe in personal responsibility, if you are not a slave to the mainstream media, then you don't get to have an opinion. You don't get to talk. You are a second-class citizen, and we have every right to discriminate against you and tell you to sit down and shut up. Let me know what you guys think about everything. I'll see you later. Bye.